ask you, everyone, a very big question. So when yesterday the presidency came out and gave us a list of a minor cabinet readjustment, what did you think about it? Was it what you expected? Were those new names, did they meet your expectation? Well, this is tonight what we're going to be focusing on. And let me begin tonight by looking at what happened. Yesterday, the president came out to make public the intention of President Bola Tinubu to review the formation of his team, or the reformation of his team, as he announced some minor readjustment. Today, the Senate says it has received a request from President Bola Tinubu for the confirmation of the appointment of 7 ministerial nominees announced yesterday. President Tinubu's request seeking expeditious consideration of the request was contained in a letter addressed to the Senate. The President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, read it at the commencement of plenary. President Tinubu has asked the Senate to consider and confirm the 7 nominees for appointment as ministers.
In compliance with the provisions of Section 147, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, I am pleased to forward to the Senate the underlisted 7 nominees for confirmation as ministers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. They are Dr. Nentawe Jilwada, Muhammadu Maigari Dingyadi, Bianca Odinaka Odumegu Ojukwu, Right Honorable Yusuf Abdullahi Atta, Idi Mokhtar Mahai, Dr. Jumoke Oduwale, Suwaba Said Ahmad, PhD.
That's the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio there. Well, we are already hearing some other measures being announced by the presidency. So as part of the cost-cutting measures of his administration, President Bola Tinubu has asked for restriction to the ministers and heads of departments and agencies of their convoys to a maximum of 3 vehicles. There is a statement by the president's advisor today. It reads that, quote, no additional vehicles will be assigned to them for movement. The president also ordered all ministers and ministers of state and heads of agencies to have at most 5 security personnel attached to them. The security team will comprise 4 police officers and 1 Department of State Services, DSS officer. No additional security personnel will be assigned. Well, let's get some perspectives on this one. I'll bring in someone who was in the cabinet before now, who understands how some of these things work, how the chemistry, the emotions, and some of the attitude in the chamber and the Federal Executive Council works when this kind of changes happen. I'm being joined by Mr. Adebayo Shittu, a former Minister of Communications. He's live for us from Abuja studio. It's good to see you, Mr. Shittu, and thank you so much indeed for your time tonight.
It's my pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah, so on one hand, a former minister. On the other hand, by the virtue of your age, you are an elder statesman. And on the other hand, you are a member of the APC. But there's a lot of expectation from Nigerians about this president's planned reshuffling of this cabinet. But was this the kind of reshufflement that you were expecting?
Well, the truth is Nigerians are always eager for changes, not minding whether such changes are likely to improve on the existing situation or not. The truth is, if you look at the changes we had yesterday, I doubt whether it is necessarily bringing in, superior minds or better minds in terms of governance, in terms of expectation, in terms of performance. The unfortunate thing in our country is that when ministers are appointed, almost, as soon as they are sworn in within the next 2-3 days. They assume their offices without going through any form of tutelage, without going through any form of reorientation, without being presented with what I call a syllabus of the jobs or responsibilities that they are supposed to, undertake. So it is more often than not a trial and error thing. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm not really excited. It's just a case of, some Nigerians are being asked to, move on. Some other Nigerians are being brought in, which does not necessarily mean that those who have been so shoved aside are inferior to those new people being brought. So I think one thing that government must start to think of and must start to do is that when people are appointed to such important positions, they should have, they should have bylines, they should have contents of the assignment that they are being given. Somebody who, for instance, has never taught in a school, perhaps is an engineer, perhaps is a medical doctor, if he's appointed into, for instance, a Ministry of Education, certainly he is going to start to learn on the job. Well, if he's sufficiently intelligent, he perhaps may be able to learn very fast. But being brought into any of these offices does not necessarily imply that such people being brought in, know what they are supposed to do. Because, it's like we just assume or presume that these new people we are bringing in, will be able to cope.
Mr. Shittu.
So yeah. As far as I'm, yep.
Yeah, as far as you're concerned, you were going to land on that. As far as you're concerned,
as I'm concerned, I think government should to evolve a procedure of getting packages for them and getting some period of tutelage, some period of orientation. Not orientation necessarily on morality, don't you are supposed to assume office, you don't do this, you don't do, no. The core assignment that they are going to be undertaking in the respective ministries, they are supposed to have, write-ups on it, they are supposed to have some tutelage, some training, which would, orientate them sufficiently, so that it won't just be,
let's rationalize the numbers now. And you look at it. There are a lot of people who have criticized President Tinubu that he's gotten already too many people on the cabinet, about 48 ministers that he had before now. Now, if you look at the numbers, 5 people were asked to bow out, 7 new people were asked to come in. So invariably, we're having more ministers. When people say we've had too many compared to last administration, does that look like a government that wanted to cut cost of governance when people are complaining that there are too many, yet you are adding more to it?
There's no point, saving a kobo. In the process, you lose, so much naira. Nigeria is made up of 200 million people. Ministers appointed are supposed to come and serve these 200 million people. And you would agree with me that the content of governance is ever expanding. Government is thinking ahead to bring in new, ministries, new, subject matters, and so on. So for me, a situation where we do penny wise, pound foolish, at the end of the day will be counterproductive. So as far as I'm concerned, having 50 ministers, is not too many for, this country. I agree that it may be possible. For instance, we have in these recent, postings, we have people who had been substantive ministers in, particular ministries who had now, been transformed from being substantive ministers in specific areas to ministers of state in areas that they are completely alien or strange to them. So what is important? It is always important when you have ministers, substantive minister or ministers, full ministers, to have people who could also assist. Take, for instance, if you take the Ministry of Agric, it's one of the largest ministry we have. The agencies under the Federal Ministry of Agric and the agencies under the Ministry of Education are certainly more than 50 in each case. So if you have 50 agencies under a ministry, you expect one person, to be able to adequately take care of the core content of the ministry itself, and also to be able to take care in a supervisory role of the more than 50, agencies under them. That will certainly be too unwieldy. And that is why in some respects, in some countries, you have a separate ministry of primary education, you also have Ministry of Higher Education, and so on and so forth. There's need for us to be realistic, to look for people who can adequately take care of these ministries, both the real content of the ministries and also the agencies under them. So to the best of my knowledge, having 50 ministers is not too many for a huge country like Nigeria with the enormous, responsibilities that many of these ministries, have to undertake.
But there are those who will also say that perhaps disagree with you. Look at how many secretary of the parliament in the United States. Look at how many people make up the cabinet with the prime minister in the United Kingdom. Look at France. Nigeria looks like a country that needs more money to be saved rather than duplicate agencies. And you look at it in any case, there are those who ask you, what is the meaning of some ministries? What do they stand for? Why are they standing alone? And the fact remains that we've run these ministries and this aspect of our lives with much lesser people in the cabinet. And there are those who will say, Mr. Shittu, there you go. You may not be right in that sense.
Well, nobody is an island of wisdom. So I welcome whoever, feels that my ideas, may not be acceptable to them. But the truth of it, which we must understand and accept, is that Nigeria is not America. Nigeria is not the UK, it's not France. We have our own peculiarities, and we must try to do the best. The stage where the United States of America has gotten to in terms of development, we perhaps will need another 20, 30 years of very hard work, very hard thinking, and, consistent, supervision, to get things done. What is important to my mind is not about the, kobo or few naira that we will save by limiting the number of ministries. What's important, like I said earlier, is for us, when people are brought in, if it is even possible, interviews will be conducted, for people who are to be appointed as ministers. It's not, more often than not, it's not everybody who is appointed as a minister that fits into the bill. You agree with me that because of the Niger Factor, if I may use that term, a lot of political decisions, a lot of decisions are, have, political coloration than, meritocracy, in determining, who becomes a minister. I would rather prefer that people are taken through a screening process to know their suitability. I'm even happy that for the first time, in the selection process of ministers, particular ministries have been assigned to prospective ministers. I believe this thing would allow the Senate, which will be screening them, to really do, a more insightful screening for those. For instance, if you say that you are appointing or you are nominating somebody for a Ministry of Works, it makes a lot of sense if you are able to ensure that those who are appointed to Ministry of Works or to the Ministry of, Greek or whatever, have some, training, some understanding of the respective subject matters of the ministry they are supposed to be posted to. Of course, I know that the ministerial jobs are responsibilities, much more in the area of administration. But all the same, for instance, I make bold to say, today we have an engineer as Minister of Works in Nigeria. Any keen watcher of events in the Ministry of Works would agree that the fact that the occupant of that position is a civil engineer, is impacting very positively on the assignment. If, for instance, I, as a lawyer who has never, had any training or any understanding of engineering, if I'm to be posted to, Works Ministry, of course, it will take a lot of time to learn, and Nigeria, certainly, we don't have too much time in such learning processes.
Mr.
So
Shittu,
I, think that the Senate must do much more work. Now that they have an inkling of the ministries that these nominees are to be posted to, they should interview them properly and be sure that these people will be able to perform optimally in the ministries that they are supposed to be, posted to. Otherwise,
Mr. Shittu, so let me jump in quickly. Now, the question here on the minds of Nigerians, and perhaps tonight, a lot of people will care less who makes the cut, how many people were in it, but what will matter to a lot of Nigerians is what is in it for them. The governance quality, the performance of some of these people in the bigger picture of things is whether your political party, the APC, is delivering on the promises, the very robust and very qualitative cabinet or team that your party said it was going to bring together. Is this the best your party could bring to bear? Are you proud of this crop of people that your party has put forward to help President Bola Tinubu with his renewed hope agenda?
Yes. Look, it would be wrong for me to presume the negativity on the part of any nominee. And that is why I'm suggesting, notwithstanding which party is appointing nominees, there should be proper processes of screening, and there should be some orientation.
No, Minister.
Before people are
Minister Shittu, the question I'm asking is, are you proud as an APC member that in this age and time, with the present reality of our country, with the economic and social issues in our country, is this the best kind of team? If you were in the private sector and you had to put together a team to deliver with the kind of situation we are in today as a country, is it the best that you will put together?
It will be wrong of me to prejudge of the 7
No, this is not a prejudgment. Apologies, this is not a prejudgment. We already, you're just adding 7 to it. You're just adding 7 to it. You remove 5. The question is that, are they delivering with the time that we have on our hands? Nigerians don't have the time. There's going to be another election. Their lives, days are going by every day. The lives of people are on the line here. Are these the crop of people that Nigerians deserve as a cabinet member?
I am not one to be judgmental. I am not one to be judgmental on those I perhaps have never known. For instance, in the new 7-member, cabinet, I know that Jumoke, Dr. Jumoke, had worked under Buhari's administration, and she performed very excellently in the area of trade and investment and commerce and all of that. And I'm proud that she's one person I can vouch for, that she would deliver very excellently. All the other 6, I don't know any of them. And since I don't know any of them, it would be wrong of me to presume that, to presume negativity on their part. So it is Mr. President.
Sorry, sir. Apologies to butt in again.
Bring about these things.
When Obasanjo was putting up his team, there are those who far and wide will say, look, he's got a knack for the kind of people that can get the job done. And so when the team is being put together, the same way a lot of people talked about Bola Tinubu when he was governor of Lagos, there are those who applauded and said, look, this guy has got eyes for the kind of quality. And you can mention names. Lai Mohammed, Babatunde Raji Fashola, Akinwumi Ambode, and the whole list of people who worked with Bola Tinubu when he was governor of Lagos, a team as a governor of Lagos, but at the federal level. Would you say,
look,
as a member of the APC, this is the best that Nigeria could get?
I would challenge anybody that during Tinubu's time, all the iconic individuals you mentioned, their merit came out only after they had been appointed to various assignments. Nobody knew most of them before they were appointed. In the same situation that we have now, I think the same Bola Ahmed Tinubu of the gubernatorial era must have improved even in his assessment and recruitment drive. So I want to presume he knows all the facts, he knows the qualities that each of them has, he knows the information he has about each of them, and we can only allow for time for these people to be able to excel and to distinguish themselves. The only advice I would add for Mr. President to do is that there's need for proper content of each ministry to be given as deliverables and as a challenge to those to be appointed. I mean, unless we do that, it will be too judgmental for us to assume that because most of these names were not names that we had been hearing, previously, that because of that, they will not be able to perform. We have to allow them to distinguish themselves, and now they have a challenge. They know that if people who had been there, some of them were asked to, exit, they know that the same fate would befall them if they fail to perform.
Quickly,
but I think the challenge also
remains
with Mr. President.
I like also anchor on this note. So the president has given an order. No minister must take more than 3 vehicles in their official convoys. Is this a good way to go? You think that we should prune it down the more?
Well, a minister, by virtue of his position, would require security attachment because they have now been politically exposed. And you don't want, because somebody has been appointed a minister, so you leave them to, the evil members of society. So I think it is not true. Number one, every minister going on assignments must have an extra vehicle. In case the main vehicle breaks down, there must be another one to, get him out of dangerous way. And of course, a minister would necessarily have, security people, around him. So I think 3 is not, too small a number, and it is not too much. So I support Mr. President in limiting, convoys of ministers to only 3.
On a final note, Mr. Shittu, there are those who have said, come 2027, when your party will be asking for vote again, the morning will determine how the evening will look. Do you think if your party went to the ballot today, that Nigerians will look in the way of your party based on the performance of every cabinet member that we have today?
You see, interestingly, I think you ought to know that the term of every president is 4 years. It's not 1.5 years, and it's not 2 years. And I believe there's a lot of work in progress which have been, started, and I trust that in another 1 year, Nigerians will start to see the goodness in the current government's efforts. You will recall that the part of the causes of the problem we are in today is the negligences of the past. Over the years, we have
past which you belong to, Minister Shittu. You were part of that past in the Buhari regime. Is that what you are referring to? The negligence of the government you worked for, isn't it?
Even beyond the Buhari administration, we had been living on loans and loans and loans, borrowings and all of that. And when Tinubu came, he just decided that we have had enough of living on borrowed times. We have had enough of postponing the evil day. We must, for once, cut down on unproductive borrowings and ensure that we live within our means.
All right.
Of course, part of the things that
Minister,
Nigeria
we are totally out of time. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Unfortunate. I hope next time you allow for more time, because there are so many issues that we need to bring, to the attention of Nigerians.
I do agree.
So,
but I must sincerely
for instance,
thank you.
You would, for instance, want to ask, how do we get out of this borrowing situation every now and then? Nigeria has been very unproductive. Yeah. We hardly have much to sell to get dollars, foreign exchange.
All right.
In such situation,
Minister,
we will continue.
Yeah, we'll have those kind of conversation, but thank you so much. It's always a pleasure having a benefit of your experience, your knowledge, serving in the federal cabinet and sharing what it looks like when this kind of situation happens. Thank you so much indeed, Honorable Adebayo Shittu, a former Minister of Communications under the Buhari tenure. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight.